Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the last Sunday here in June at Unity Church of Hawaii. And normally, truth be told, we usually have an Aloha Sunday on the fourth Sunday of the month. Things happen, and you have me today. But what thank you. All right, okay. Checks in the mail, everyone. Checks in the mail. Thank you for that. I was thinking about the importance of, let's say, Aloha Sunday, and I was talking to Reverend Ryan Souza, who usually gives our Aloha Sunday messages. And so we had this meeting on Thursday to discuss things, and we really came to this conclusion that it's not just about Aloha Sunday. It's about the stories that we share with one another. And what's important about that particular Sunday here at this church is we get to hear Hawaiian spirituality and the culture, and we get to embrace it because we're here on this beautiful island, loving this beautiful weather, and enjoying this wonderful community as one. And we have different experiences that have shaped who we are and where we're going. But each and every Sunday, without fail, people show up. And for an hour or two, we are the one body of Christ together. Our story is the same, that we are here right now. And each one of you, even though the experience internally may be a little different, you can say this one moment in time, you shared something with this community and the Ohana here. So the story that we have within us, that we live day to day, it matters. And that's why speaking and preaching and writing and talking and conversating is so important. Unfortunately, our forms of communication have changed over the years. For most of us, we are on social media, we're texting, and we are, communicating the news through the social media apps. Instead of sitting down and talking it over with family, we somehow think that a Facebook post is going to convey in the moment exactly what is happening. And we're sharing our stories that way, which works fine, except we're losing a little bit of that oneness when we take another form of communication. And that's why sharing your story has so many deep levels in it. I just want to dive a little bit into that today because it can help your story, no matter where you've been, no matter what you've seen or experienced, can help someone. Maybe not today, but in a generation or two. You never know the impact that you have to a community, to your family, and to this world in the present moment. And yesterday I was having a conversation with my boyfriend, and he mentioned to me that he was going to a book signing, and that he was attending it. He has a Ho'oponopono kahu, and she was doing a book signing for a new book that she released. Without thinking, I responded by stating that it was customary to purchase a book at one of these events and to basically bring your credit card. And he took great offense to that because common sense kind of tells you if you're going to go to a friend's book signing, you're going to bring some form of payment to support them. However, what I was doing was I was trying to teach him a lesson of something that I learned when I was 22 years old in going to a book signing for one of my friends. And so I could see that he was a little perturbed that I would even insinuate that he didn't have that common sense. With that, I decided to tell the story of why I even said that. So when I was 22 years old, I was home on leave, and a friend had just published a book, and she was having a book signing at a local mall. I went there so excited, just saying, yay, I'm going to be part of this, that I didn't bring really anything with me. And so I finally get to the front of the line, no book in hand, no nothing. And she's like, oh, you're going to purchase one of my books. Great to see you. I had nothing for her. It was an embarrassing moment in my life. So when I said that to my boyfriend yesterday, in regards to he needs to make sure to purchase a book, what I was trying to do was just tell him that, by the way, there was a bad experience that I had, and I wanted to share that with you. And had I had started out with that story once he told me that he was going to this event, we could have had a good laugh of it, and I probably wouldn't have hurt his feelings with what I assumed to be maybe something he didn't know about. And so the 22-year-old clueless Johanna was trying to talk to him when, decades later. Had I started with this story, I could have avoided maybe a little heated contention in that and really conveyed what my point was in a way that he could have received it a lot better. Because when we share our stories, there are experiences. So no one can actually say it's right or wrong. This is something that I went through. And this is something that I am conveying to you. And these stories that we speak tell of our culture, our beliefs, and ultimately our personal ethos. Our great storytellers out there made the distinction of these stories. They made sure to put these stories on the forefront because it enhances connection. They entertained, they educated, and they created value in the social structure. With this connection that we make when we tell our story or tell a story, we leave a gift. Now, our ancestors left us a gift of this story or their experiences of trial and tribulation, of hopes that we would accept their gift and perpetuate it to the future generations. We share stories as a way to connect consciousness, if we look at it at the metaphysical level, to connect consciousness, and it can be used as a medicinal balm for something that is happening within the community, within a loved one's life at the time. Now, Pono Shem, and I'm not sure if many of you know who Pono Shem is in this community, but in the Hawaiian community, he was a great storyteller, and he just recently made his transition. But he was a student of Kupuna Palahipaki, the keeper of secrets of Hawaii, and the proponent of Aloha. And so whenever you hear Kumu Ramsey or another Aloha Sunday speaker or Kumu up here talking about the acronyms for Aloha, the A, the L, the OHA, they really have gotten that from this Kupuna Palahi, and they're really sharing the story with you of Aloha and how it came to be and the importance that it has within not only this community, but in the Hawaiian Islands and how it can positively affect the world. If a story can be used as medicine, think of all the stories that we can use in our own lives, from our own experience, that can help us to connect with another individual, that can help us to transcend or them to transcend a particular situation. Your story matters because it can help not only yourself, and it has helped you, but it can also help others. And so we're called to, not only on a Sunday, but every day, to share what we've gone through, to tell our children and our grandchildren, for some great-grandchildren, so on and so forth. Because these are the stories that are going to live on long after we're gone. These stories can heal an individual as well as a nation. And what is that saying? Whenever we fail, our history will repeat itself if we fail to learn from it. We're doomed to repeat history when we don't learn what our ancestors have gone through. And when we forget the stories, we forget the connection, we forget the blessing and the gift that they were trying to give to us. With that, there's also ways of using stories to connect groups. I know that in the military, there has been times where commanders will use stories or tell stories to the troops of past or previous victories just to incite enthusiasm, to lift morale, and to unify each one's connection to their brother and sister in arms. You always want this unified response in a community, whether it's a spiritual community, whether it's a cultural community, or a global community. When we can all act as one and we have the same set of information to propel us forward, we are greater together at that point. So what stories are we sharing and telling? Here on this island, do the stories that we share have any aloha in them? I know personally I have a half Irish and half African American background, and so I have a unique story to share. Unfortunately, a lot of it was lost because it wasn't passed to my parents and maybe to their parents. And so these lessons, these blessings, these gifts that could have been given to a generation like mine, I'll never know about because somewhere along the way, someone forgot to tell their story to their successor. And that's what our children are. That's what the youth is. The successors for the next era of being. And if we had something to share with them that can help them in their life's journey, in this cultural journey, in this world journey, we should share it. Now, stories are used to entertain. Not only do they connect, but they entertain. Whenever I tell you a good news story, guess what gets released in your body? Endorphins. Exercise does that. Many of us don't want to exercise, so let's just tell each other good stories instead. I mean, why go to the gym when we can sit around and, have a good chat? So our stories help to alleviate stressors in the body, help us to feel good, especially when they're good stories about what happened yesterday that made us greater today, when we can inspire individuals with our stories. We are healing them in that regard as well. We are lifting that consciousness of the one, and when one gets lifted, or when one raises, we all get lifted. We all rise together. We cannot leave each other behind in this. This is the game of life. Everybody is in it. Congratulations. And when we work together, when we share, and that's what it is, these stories, we're sharing with one another our hopes, our dreams, our experience, our wisdom, in hopes that the people that we share it with can use it, that it's of some value, that we can positively affect tomorrow by what we do today. And the lessons that we learn from the stories. I want you to recall a story that you were told as a child, either by a trusted adult in school or what have you. And see if you can remember that story vividly. Some adult out there thought it was important enough at the time to share with you an experience, a bit of wisdom, what have you, that they went through in order to hopefully have you either circumvent that process or to create wisdom within you. And there's a saying that you can be smart and learn from your mistakes, or be wise and learn from another's. When we can learn from others, we definitely can lift the whole. We don't have to go through the battles of our ancestors when we can take what we know of them and apply it in our now and present lives. In Mark 4, we find Jesus by the Sea of Galilee teaching to the multitudes from a boat. Now, Jesus understood the power of a story and how valuable it was as a teaching tool. We read in Mark 4:10, and when he was alone, that they were about with him, and the 12 asked him of the parables, because Jesus spoke in parables. And he said unto them, unto you is given the mystery of the kingdom of God, but unto them that are without, all things are done in parables, that seeing they may see and not perceive, and hearing they may hear and not understand. Parables were a brief symbolic history or story that Jesus used to illustrate truth. We've heard in the Bible, for those who have the ears to hear and the eyes to see, let it be known to them. And that's what it is. He used these stories of the kingdom to describe certain things to the multitudes, to describe things to the disciples. So those that had the spiritual ear could hear exactly what he was conveying. And others just thought it was a great story. Either way, everyone got something from that and could pass on that story to another generation. And when we're using the power of storytelling, we're putting into practice the power of imagination. In June here at Unity, we celebrate the power of that imagination, the power to image each June. We should be celebrating it every day because we're doing it every day, whether we know it or not. With the power of our imagination, we're creating and cutting into the fabric of life, our hopes, our dreams, our desires. And when we can facilitate the correct use of our imagination, when we can convey that to someone else, powerful things start to happen. In the revealing word, it goes on to state, with our imagination, we lay hold of ideas and clothe them with substance. The body is the product of the mind. What man pictures or images in his mind, and remember, man back in the days, man and woman, what man pictures or images in his mind will eventually appear in his body. In the communication of God with man, the imaging power of the mind plays an important part. It receives divine ideas and reflects their character to the consciousness. According to Scripture, this is the opening of the heavens and the seeing of the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man, as we read in Jacob's ladder. So Jesus, knowing that when we use stories, it creates and activates the use of our own imagination. Today we have, not moving pictures, why am I saying that? It's not 1920. We have movie theaters, we have, just other things, newspapers and everything else that kind of convey those visual images to us. But whenever we use just our voice and we speak it to somebody, we're activating that power of imagination within them. So what stories are we telling to others? Are they the good stories that are helpful? Or are we doing more harm than good? Our ancestors left us a gift of their story, just so we wouldn't have to go through these trials and tribulations alone. Sometimes just knowing somebody else has been through a similar situation is enough to keep you going. In Hawaii, the kupuna would speak of genealogy, demigods, and how the life in the islands were formed. And they ask questions like, who are you? And why are you here? When was the last time you sat down with yourself and asked that question? A story may arise about who you are. You may have a certain idea because of the experiences that you've had in your life. Why not go out there and share it? Once you've discovered the gift that you are, share it with others. The Hawaiians also use proverbs to convey lessons on all matters of life. From love to the downfall with the use of revenge, these powerful elders in the community shared these gifts with all because it was important, just so the past doesn't repeat itself, that we learn. And these stories from ancestral roots to numerous things that they could go on for hours just reciting their genealogy. but it was important. Why? Because it is who they are. It helps for them to go, or anyone, to go forward in life knowing where you came from and your ancestral roots behind you and the stories of rising and the stories of tribulation. What happened? How did they get through it? And where did they go from there? If we don't know where we came from, chances are we might not even know where we're at. And if that's happening, we surely don't know where it is that we are going. And when we stop sharing our story or valuing the importance of it, everything within the story fades. It dwindles back to start. It's almost like we are doing for our generations, pressing a restart button when we don't share these lessons. And unfortunately, for some, our generations may have to relive the lessons that we have learned today. Now, I have an Air Force friend who is here visiting me for the past week or so. And we've been recalling all of our adventures together, from our trips to Amsterdam to Ibiza, from Australia to Italy. We have traveled quite a bit of the world. Now, I don't know what it is, but every single night we get together, and there is a story that she brings up that I do not remember me ever doing. And there's stories where, and we have pictures, and I'm just, like, that is you. I do not remember that scene, but okay. I guess the proof is in the pudding. So there's certain stories that you do want to share, and then there's the ones that you don't want to share with anyone, okay? Those things just need to get buried, and, my children don't need to know about them. The lessons learned will remain with me. And I think that sometimes it's better that way, and I'm glad that some of my memories don't contain the craziness that my friend and I went through. It was fun. I think I learned lessons from what I remember, and I know that some things are just better yet kept to oneself. Now, there's a 2017 Pixar animation called Coco. Has everybody seen that? Coco. It's beautiful, and I remember when I first saw it, I thought it was a little wacky or whatever, but in thinking of the sermon I was giving today, suddenly that movie hit me. Now, the concept for Coco is inspired by the Mexican holiday, Day of the Dead. And it's portrayed as a holiday. Normally, when it's celebrated, it's joyful celebration. It is something that people from all over that area, that celebrate the Day of the Dead, they do not mourn over those that have gone on to the other side, but with humor, remember them. Now, because these are celebrations of a humorous tone, they would use, and they'll start to recall these funny incidents that would happen in somebody's life, somebody who had already passed on. And in the movie Coco, as long as there was one person that remembered your life here on this earth and in this realm, you continue to exist in the afterlife. The moment the last person here on earth has a memory of you, forgets you, or makes their transition, your existence in the movie Coco, your existence in the afterlife comes to an end. Then we're left with what King Solomon said in Ecclesiastes. Meaningless, this is all meaningless then. If eventually everyone that has known us and the memory of us goes away, do we have to reset and start over? No. That's why these stories and sharing them and showing to our children the importance of continuing on and remembering those ones that have come before. I have yet to hear any stories about my great-great-great-grandparents, and that's unfortunate on both sides of my family. I couldn't tell you anything. I know, with one side being Irish, one side being black, there was some things that went on. I would love to know what was really happening for them. Maybe read a memoir or two and connect that way to them. And then once I make that connection by receiving that gift, to give it to my children so they can perpetuate the story, so they can share the story with their children. When we leave church on Sundays, every Sunday there's something shared, something personal, some profound set of wisdom usually. What are we doing to share with those that we come into contact with? Or are we keeping the gift to ourselves? Are we extending the message or constricting it? No matter what age you are right now, it is not and never too late to share your life. Share it so that others may honor it. Share it so the world, in the recesses of consciousness, keeps your name, keeps your lessons and your blessing of you being you alive in consciousness. So who are the stories, or what are the stories that we're really sharing with one another? Whose gift are we accepting with the stories that we listen to? Stories of what to do, how to avoid certain things in life, recounting previous struggles and ways to get through them. The Bible has those in them too. It's a group of 66 books that tell numerous stories, that they may use older language, some scariness in there, but we can still apply these lessons to our lives. Each one of us has a story inside to inspire, to heal, to help others transcend a difficulty. And great storytellers knew this, and they know this. And that's why they were so valued in their community, because they could lift everyone with a simple story. They could move a story through generations, and each one receiving that gift of that could feel the significance and importance. How is your history now going to be written? When your last day here, your last breath, does your story fade with you? Or is there someone that you've shared it with that will help to move it on? Bless the world. Your story matters because you matter, because your life matters. Let us remember that as we close our eyes and just take a deep breath into that oneness, into this story of our lives, that this powerful presence that we call the me, the I am, has a gift to share with the world, has a lesson and a blessing that we don't have to wait for a certain Sunday to receive and to pass it on, that message is within us already, that we are the blessing that this world is waiting for, if we take the time to share our story. Let us take this into the silence.